Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to another Minecraft video. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We are interviewing Cryptite, who is, if you don't know, the server owner. He owns Loka, he runs everything, and we went on Loka forums and we asked a bunch of questions, or we asked for a bunch of questions to ask Cryptite here, and Loka got very into it. We've got a bunch of questions here that we're going to ask Cryptite about the server, about himself, and we'll see what goes on. So how are you today, Cryptite?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. It's been a long day.
Well, it's a Friday at least.
It is a Friday. That's a good thing. So, getting started. I can answer that one. He says, Catfish JW says, speaking of the Skyman, are his messages controlled by admins, or are they based on the problems the server experiencing? So I think he's asking if they're automated or not. I know they're not automated, but are you the only one who controls the Skyman in game, or is that usable by all the admins?
Uh, yeah, and there are some automated messages, but pretty much they're only the server restart ones.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't
I do
hear the
not
first part of it. It cut out.
type. Oh, and I am the only, and half of the messages are automated.
Really?
Blowing it.
From the Skyman, half the messages are automated?
Yeah, so server restart messages, I don't manually type in like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. That's odd.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
but most of the stuff you type yourself.
I do, yes.
Okay, cool. Koi0001 says, ask about PvE, and then I asked specifically what he meant. He says, gotta ask about what the real end goal of the server is. It's pretty clear that it's to be successful in Conquest, but that's still up for debate. So, yeah, what's your vision about how the server will progress in the future? Like, what are you trying to aim for?
Well, that's a good question, and I think I can also nail a few birds with one stone because I think there are other quests. Okay, nail a few sheep with one.
That's better.
And because I know there's a few other questions that are kind of like what is your 5-year view on Loka and whatnot. But starting with the PvE question, basically, story is still meant to be a part of the server as it always has been. In fact, PvE is one of the updates that we are working on right now as we speak. We are basically writing the tools to empower other players to help us with some more PvE content. So, because we do want to further the story of this world, because this world has probably got the least amount of storytelling of any of the ones we've had in the past. So, we're working on it. End goal of the server is hard to answer because we don't really see, and I don't plan on there being an end of the server in the near future anyway. As far as what's the end of the storyline, that I do know, but of course I can't say. There's only one other person that knows how the story of Loka ends. But as long as there's interest and as long as I'm alive and kicking, I guess I like the idea that Loka will continue growing and being more popular. So yeah.
That's awesome. So you do plan on expanding the quests and the storyline of Loka in the near future?
Yeah. We certainly would like there to be more like jobs and quests to do that are official, that have some story to them, that aren't meaningless, sort of flesh out some of the story of the denizens of Aladra, because there's a lot of people there with some pretty fuzzy stories from the past, and I'm sure some people would like to know about what that dude down in the cave is doing all day long.
I haven't actually seen him yet, I don't think.
He's still down there.
I'll have to go check him out.
I don't think he does much right now. I think he's quite silent.
He says, please also ask about the server's stance on players getting confused on what to do on the server. By this, I essentially mean that if players don't get into Conquest late game, it almost becomes a chore to make sure towns are still alive. This can be seen by older players eventually wanting to make new towns again, as it's the idea of leveling a town that is really the main PvE side of the server. And once town reaches level 25 and has most of its essential buildings done, there's really not much left to do aside from fishing.
That is a multi-pronged question.
Yes, it is.
The very most important thing that we were working on, in addition to, well, we're always working on like 5 things at once, but The reason we haven't done an advertising spree of late is because we would like to create a sort of how to Loka in 60 seconds or so YouTube video. And the idea is that a lot of people come out of the intro course thinking that it's cool. They did a fight. The server seems neat. But then pretty quickly they don't know what to do anymore. And I think the idea is that at that point we can kind of ping them with a, hey, go watch this video. And like in 60 seconds or less, we'll be like, here are the docks. Take a boat. Go to the continents. These are the wilds. What is this? This is an inhibitor pad. Step on this to make a town. Don't want to make a town? Join a town. What are these things? Attack them. And like just really break it down really fast, because we know a lot of people would like the most amount of information in the least amount of time. So I think once we have something like that ready, another advertising push will be a lot more successful, because people will not be reliant on other players telling them what to do. Hopefully we can give them a quick, like, go do this if you want to do this or this, yada, yada, yada.
I know when I first joined about, I don't remember when that was. I joined for a little while. Nerd Nation was checking out some other servers. We were planning on moving. We didn't end up moving to Loka that time, actually, but I remembered it. It looked like a really cool server. Like you said, I battled the golem at first and everything. It seemed really cool. And then Jammin invited me to Seagulls right off the bat, and I got there and I was totally lost.
Right.
I had no idea what was going on, and he was trying to explain it. It was just not working out. So a video like that I think would be extremely helpful to starters, especially if they plan to make their own town right away rather than join in something.
Right. And you were lucky because you got a town invite, which tends to be the best way that people stick around, because the town owners can kind of onboard people.
Yeah.
But it's the people who don't get caught by the recruiting efforts, or who ask for a town and nobody says anything for 15 seconds. Like, there's this seemingly very guided intro to the server, and then it seemingly just kind of stops all of a sudden. And when you give the players some illusion that they're going to be guided along, the server, or guided towards the intro of the server, and then don't finish that, it confuses them and then they go away. So we think that'll help.
So is there anything else you want to say about the general paragraph?
As for more things to do once you hit level 25, I mean, by that point, you're probably involved in conquest. I don't think there are any level 25 towns that aren't at least somewhat doing the conquest. However, we do want to add more, we'll call them random events that happen on the server, or even scheduled events. Like the fishing tournament's an example of something that, happens every few days. It's a guaranteed thing that's going to happen. We would like more things like that to be part of the server, so that if you log on, there might be something to do, or something that's happening that isn't just either one, the fishing tournament, or two, possibly being in a fight. We would like there to be other, like maybe King of the Hill type events that happen, or maybe a meteor strikes somewhere and you want to get some sweet loot out of that, but also fight off players. Like, the idea is that there should always be kind of something to do on the server, if just conquest isn't the only thing that you want to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great idea for sure. Looking at the paragraph, it looks like I think you hit all the main points there. So anything else you want to say, or should we move on?
Well, if players have ideas, that's what the forums are for. We love to hear ideas from the players, and there have been some really good ones lately, actually, so keep it up.
All right, awesome. Next question is super serious. Do pineapples belong on pizza?
So belong is a strong word, but, and this is probably going to force half the server to quit, I am okay with pineapples on pizza. That's fine by me. I don't personally go for it, but I've had a few and they haven't bothered me and offended me in any way. So
I've actually never had it.
I say do whatever makes you happy.
All right, well that answers Mr. Piscale. I don't know how to say that.
Mr. Pisquale, that's what we call him.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, whatever he said. Catfish JW says, if you think that pineapples belong on pizza, then I'm going to have to bribe Crypt to ban you. So I guess that's not going to happen. If you're fine with it.
Price is, I suppose.
That's great. Opera Ghost 2004 asks, how high can you sing?
Well, I'm not going to do it for the video or the interview, but I have been known to hit the high note on Aha's Take on Me. And you can just Google that, find out what that song is, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay. I actually never heard that.
Probably older than the average YouTuber, or not YouTuber, Loken, in terms of older music, but it's pretty popular.
All right. Well, if you're interested, go Google that, and we'll learn more about
And
Mr.
just picture me
Cryptite.
singing it. Maybe if I've had a few more drinks, I'll do it one day.
Yes, would love to hear that. Oh, here's a good one from Jedoi. What is your favorite thing about Loka?
Wow. Gee,
That's a
it's
tough
hard
one.
to say one thing, but I will say, and this is one of the more mushy things, is that it's the community is actually my favorite thing about Loka.
Aww.
Despite the toxicity that people claim is on the server, there has always been and always will be some level of that. However, I've been a witness to a lot of other more benevolent aspects of the community, and I've seen friendships and relationships created on Loka that have lasted for years and years and years. And I know that there's been a number of Lokans that have actually met each other in real life, and I assume they all liked each other when they really met each other. I don't actually know, but that's what I assume. I've met Opic, and we had a great time. So I know that there are not only friendships, but some relationships that have spawned from the server existing. And knowing that not only have those happened, but also it's helped some people through some rough times. I think it's one of those things that if there was ever any question as to the work having been done on Loka being justified, I think that if it's ever helped anybody through a tough time, then that's justification enough for me. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
that's my favorite thing about Loka. But my second favorite thing about Loka is watching all you people scheme about killing each other. So and that's why there's conquest.
Yes, so. That's beautiful. Oh, QFU says he'll probably say the community, as it's the most generic answer that everyone says.
Hey, that's really funny, and I'm okay with that being predictable. That's fine.
Well, Catfish JW says if you say community to the answer for this question, then he will cry. So don't make Catfish don't make him cry.
No problem.
What is your favorite part about being an admin? That's kind of the same question, but I don't know.
Being able to okay, I'm going to extend that question or modify it slightly to say what's my favorite part about being an owner, and that's finding out about all the schemes ahead of time.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Because being on an admin is different from like Magpie and Latane and I versus the Guardians, like Skuhu and Wizard Teapot and stuff like that. Like we have separated ourselves from the day-to-day combat and politics and stuff like that, and we kind of take a step back, so we kind of get to plan things for the server, talk about the future without having to worry about having to go to a conquest fight. And I know some of our Guardians still like to be active in conquest, so yeah, community is still one of my favorite parts, but being able to kind of watch over being able to freely teleport to all the towns that are being made on the server is actually probably one of my favorite things, because I've teleported to some places that I guess I hadn't checked out in perhaps months, only to find some like really amazingly built towns, or even like tiny little shacks, storefronts that people have built. Like the amount of time people put into some of this stuff is great, and I am sad to say that I haven't gotten to see all of them. So
yeah, I bet you run into some nice stuff there. This next one is from Catfish JW as well. I assume it's kind of a joke. He says, when is merch coming? But expanding on that, is merch ever coming? Like, for real? Yeah?
So, for the longest time, we didn't make any movements on this because we had our old logo and we had been working on a new one. Well, so since now we have this new fancy logo, now I feel that we know what our brand kind of looks like, and so being able to make merchandise with that logo is much more straightforward and knowable. So it's just probably not at the top of the priority list, but it's definitely something we'd love to do.
That's awesome.
In fact, if somebody, I know that you have some experience with merch of late, so maybe I can hire your services.
Ooh, maybe you'll have to talk about that after the call.
Well, that sounds like a separate conversation. Yeah.
Yes. Maybe not for YouTube. Yeah, Skuhu asks, where do you see Loka in 2 years? You kind of went over that. If you want to say anything about that, that's fine. I'll look ahead.
So I would say the 2-year plan and the 5-year plan aren't very different, just because, first of all, if anybody had asked me even 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago, what I thought Loka would be like in 3 years, no idea. I know my 1,000-foot idea of what I hope it'll be, but what it is and what it was even when it began is so totally different. Who knows? But I think two things are not going to go away. Towns are not going to go away. Conquest is not going to go away. So my dream, I suspect, is that Loka becomes a hugely popular server, with major gigantic fights going on, or maybe tons and tons of little fights. But the more that people that are involved in the conquest system, kind of the more fun it is, because it'll always be two sides against each other, but it's a lot of fun to watch little towns and little factions kind of grow, fall apart, reform, and scheme, and yada yada yada. So I like this. I like the idea of Loka being a pretty preeminent and well-known server in 2 to 3 years. And I think it's very possible.
Yeah, one of the reasons Nerd Nation moved here rather than in other places, because we had you've probably heard me talk about this before, but just for everybody listening, we had a vote whether we wanted to move to a server where the focus was raiding, or where the focus was not raiding, like a towny server or something more peaceful. And the vote basically ended in a tie. It was very, very close. I think raiding was a little higher. I honestly don't remember. But we came here because it's such a balance between the two. I've never seen a quote towny server that allows you to build so freely and still has raids on it. Like, I've seen RPG servers that are totally based on quests, which gets a little boring after a while, and there's not usually free build, but this combines RPG, towny, and like factions basically, which is something I've never seen done before, and it kind of applies to a lot of people in a lot of different ways, which is one of the reasons we came here. So I'd definitely like to see the PvE side of things expand a little bit for more peaceful players like you were talking about. I think that gives people more options depending on their preferences.
There was a time in Loka about 2.5 to 3 years ago where raiding was way more like factions. It was raiding like a faction server, in that there are no blockings to raiding. TNT cannons were available. All the block glitching things could be done. And we basically made a point at some point, or we made a decision at some point, that we wanted people to be able to build good-looking towns and not have that also equal sacrificing security. Because as anybody knows, any server that's like factions and raiding, you kind of have to build either a really ugly town or just fully underground in order to prevent raiding. And we wanted the idea that people could build pretty towns and have like doors and have glass walls, and that didn't mean that somebody could ender pearl glitch through a wall or phase through a wall, etc., etc. So unfortunately, a lot of people didn't like that, but a lot more people, I would like to think, did like that, because we decided that, you know what, you can still kill and raid and pillage and murder and steal, but you can't do all the crap that basically is just knowing the bugs and exploits and glitches of Minecraft in order to raid.
Right.
If that makes sense.
So the last point I said before I cut out was that I'd love to see the PvE part expanded like you were talking about, because that's it just applies to so many players, like I was talking about. Factions, towny, and poop, what's the last one? Brain fart. What was I talking about?
Quests, maybe?
Yes, RPG, factions, and towny all combined into one. It's so nice to have more peaceful options, as well as the raiding option, which is definitely one of Loka's strongest point with the custom conquest system and everything. So expanding on the PvP aspect is definitely one of the things I'm looking forward to the most.
Definitely.
Adzi wants to know if we can have orange trees.
To which I will defer to Magpie Man. So if you want to do an interview with him one day, you feel free.
Oh, I'd love to. He also asks if we can have orange heads, which I think is a good compromise, personally.
See previous statement.
Okay.
I am not in control, so to speak. I mean, obviously, I have a say, but Mag has reasons for why he do like he be, and I have nothing to do with the lack thereof of orange things on the server.
Okay. I'll have to talk about Maggie about that. Opera Ghost 2004 wants to know, what's the weirdest question you've ever had to answer as a server owner?
I almost wish I had prepared for this more ahead of time, because I think I'd really have to reflect on that for some time. I get a lot of pretty usual requests, honestly. And not as many of them are as weird as you might think. I don't know that there is a really really weird question. It's stuff like, do pineapples belong on pizza? That's the kind of stuff that's weird. So I'll if it pops into my head sometime throughout the rest of this interview, I'll pipe up. But yeah, life advice. I suppose life advice is some of the weirder stuff. Like, it's not weird, but it's interesting that they're coming to me for it. I've had people come to me with like, what should I tell my parents so that I can play Minecraft more often, or stuff like that, which is, I suppose, why some of the people call me dad. I'll just go with it. There's nothing I can do about that.
Have you ever had to give relationship advice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
For like somebody you don't know, I mean, on the server.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I've covered a lot of that kind of thing, I suppose. It generally, it's not, sometimes I give it freely whether I'm asked it or not, but if they're talking to me then and they're telling me about stuff, then yes. But yeah. If you can dream it, I might have been asked it by some point. Honestly, the more weird stuff was probably asked of me in a VC with some people on Discord or something. So that's probably why I don't remember it as well, because it's probably just organic as opposed to like a DM on Discord or something.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Time Centaur has a bunch of questions regarding all sorts of things. He says, if you didn't have to sleep, what would you do with the extra time?
Sleep anyway.
Sleep anyway.
Sleep's amazing.
That's so true.
I love sleep. I think I've always kind of enjoyed sleep, but ever since being, let's go with the older as the terminology. Since I don't know if you're going to put how old I am in this in the interview, I don't really care. I suppose if you do, but yeah, I like sleep.
Yeah.
If I had to do more, I don't know. I feel like people would do something that would make them stress out. I think sleep's too good.
Yeah.
I reject the question.
I can't argue with that. After hosting the server for as long as you have, what's the number one thing you've... Oh, that's an interesting question.
Great question.
What's the number one thing you've learned from it?
Restraint.
Ooh.
Quite honestly, is restraint. Because now that, I don't know if it's time or if it's popularity of the server, but nothing that I say is not screenshotted or shared among like 65 separate Discords. That's like slightly hyperbolic. I'm not that popular, but there are a lot of times that a younger me or a younger server owner version of myself would have loved to pop into an argument that's going on a public chat and pick a side or argue for the fun of it. And I have to not try to do that much anymore, just because it doesn't benefit me or the server for me to pick sides on all these things, because kind of the entire purpose of being the server owner, and Magpie has to do this as well, is that we're perceived as neutral. And that means not just neutral because we're on no side of the conquest fights, but also because we're on no side of any religious or political debates. I mean, my opinions will come out from time to time because I can't stop forever. But yeah, right. Holding back and not talking is probably one of the hardest learned lessons of server ownership, if you ask me.
A question from me kind of regarding that. As a leader of a obviously small town / faction sort of thing, I've had to learn to deal with people who are less mature. As a server owner, I'm sure you've seen a lot of that. How has your years as a server owner kind of, how do you handle them now that you might not have earlier?
Well, I think it's just important to remember that most of the people that play Minecraft are kids. I mean, that's just all there is to it. There's nothing offensive about being young and playing Minecraft. I mean, it obviously appeals to that age group more than anybody else. So you just remember that you might be arguing with somebody who's 14 or 13 or 12 years old, and remember what you were like when you were that young. Mm-hmm. I know I was just as annoying when I was that young. And we've got some impressively mature kids for their age on the server, and some of them have come on to be guardians, so and staff. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And also, just because you're young doesn't, or just because you're old doesn't mean you don't still do stupid stuff. Because I've seen a lot of people my age do some pretty stupid stuff. So Magpie does stupid stuff all the time.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
I'm sure he will contest that statement.
Another good one. If you could change anything about Minecraft, what would it be?
Boy, there's a lot of things I would change about Minecraft. I would make it more performant. I would make it not I would make it so that it didn't require or like a surprisingly decent computer to run it well. The fact that it's a block game, you'd think that means that potato computers could run it, but they cannot. So I think that problem is solved by the Bedrock edition of Minecraft and the Windows 10 edition of Minecraft. I think the Java version will forever suffer by being not that optimized. So if I could change it, I think I would make it run better on everybody's computers, because the amount of effort that we have to put into our features to make sure that they don't lag people's computers is dumb. That's not something that I should be handling. I should be thinking, is this feature cool or not? Does this look cool or not? Not like, oh, I want to make a change to the game and no one's computer can handle it. That makes me sad.
Yeah, when new versions of Minecraft come out and I have to record without Optifine, I mean, my computer isn't bad. It's not great. It's a regular computer, and when I record and do without Optifine, it's sometimes a struggle for just absolutely. Minecraft.
And for a game about which so much content is created on YouTube, there's a ton of people that would benefit from having it not be such a heavy game.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of related to that, if you could change anything about Loka, what would it be? Obviously beyond coding stuff, since you can already do that. I don't know what in Loka is not in coding, but I'll let you think about that.
I mean, we are still bound by the limits of vanilla Minecraft. See, we've chosen never to make it a modded Minecraft game, so anybody could always join, but that means that we also don't have any of the cool stuff that a lot of mods have. If I could change anything about Loka entirely, I might revisit how Conquest works as a more like a, so that I guess I'll rewind a bit. Part of my Conquest's vision came from the game called PlanetSide, which has a hexagon shaped. But the thing about that is that there's only 3 sides. They're chosen 3 sides. So there's a ton of servers out there that are like dwarves and humans and elves, or various, and you pick one and that's your side and you fight for it. I think it would be interesting. However, I think the dynamic would be very much the same in the end, because I still think it would be 2 sides that are, and then that random third side that doesn't really matter that much. But it would be neat if there was sort of like a more formalized system for picking a side, so that was you had more sort of loyalty to your nation. If we'll go with the elves and dwarves and humans thing, like elves would band together and they'd hate humans for reasons and stuff like that. We kind of tried to create our own bit of that by having religions and having continents, and there have been some aspects of dirty northerners, dirty southerners, dirty westerners, but these days people pop around to so many different towns. It's always the same sort of core group of people that go to all the continents. That sort of continental loyalty and nationalism doesn't really exist anymore, but sometimes it does, and I think that new players are going to probably bring some of that back. So I don't know that I would change that, though, because I think one of the big exciting parts of Loka is that you're not forced to do anything, and everything you want to do all started with you making a town, growing, becoming more powerful, and potentially winning. And the fact that was all you, all your town, all your building, and at no point did you have to basically say, well, I'm this side. I think that's kind of attractive to people. I mean, that's one of the draws. So if I just unanswered my question, I'm sorry, but I guess that's good. I think that means I feel strongly about the current direction of Loka. So.
Yeah, and that's all it should be. That's good.
Oh boy.
How many coding languages do you know, and which ones?
I started by learning Python, and then I learned Java for Minecraft reasons, and I work as a game developer, and I work in C# with that. But I've also done web stuff, so I know JavaScript, I know HTML, I know CSS reasonably decently. And then there's other programming languages like Batch script for Microsoft Windows, and then there's shell script for Linux. So those, basically.
That's a lot.
It's a fair few. I wouldn't say that I'm amazing at any of them necessarily, but I think I'm definitely the strongest in Java and C Sharp.
Relating to that, my own question here. Do you do most of the programming yourself for Loka, or does your staff kind of help a lot as well?
I am the only programmer / developer in that respect on Loka. However, not all of the code that is in the server is mine. Now, so Asymptonic, my brother, he actually wrote, Loka as it was for the first year. So there is actually still some of his code running around. A lot of the original code that he wrote was involved town protections and stuff like that. Now, most of that's changed so much that it's hard to say that it still exists, but it still does in a way. But then there have been some people here and there that have contributed. There was a town called Vantis, and one of their guys actually contributed to some of our anti-rating technology involving glitching through stuff. So there's definitely a hodgepodge of code here and there that has been given to us or borrowed. The boat system was briefly written by a player named Chaos Gamer BC. He used to live in Hilo, and he's actually basically just a coworker of mine. I still sit next to him every day. But I would say that probably 98% of all the code on Loka is of my own making.
Wow, that's a lot of code for one person.
It's a lot of coffee in the morning.
A lot of coffee. Okay, 3 more from Time Center. Jeez, Time Center, how did you think of all these? Do you ever plan on doing some PvP in Loka, whether in Conquest or Duel? You talked a little bit about this with staying neutral and everything. Do you plan on doing PvP?
I don't think I'll do Conquest, and I probably won't do Duels. But I would totally get back into Voda once we get that back in.
Yes.
Valley of the Artifacts was one that Magpie and I would constantly still queue for because they're fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So, and we would do Veil of Conquest, which has recently become. You should be able to queue and play it now. I don't know how well it runs, but it should still work.
Yeah, I've never actually played either of those.
Oh yeah, those are I mean, you should give it a shot. It's fairly stable, but there are some bugs, I think. But we definitely want to do a Voda rework because that's a system that was made and hasn't really been touched in any meaningful way since 1.7 PvP. So that's a bit of time ago.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I literally don't have any idea what those are because
they're fun. So
they've been down most of the time when I was here.
It's kit PvP, but with activatable talent abilities.
Ooh.
Like an exploding arrow and a healing arrow and a shield wall and the ability to hook and pull yourself across the field. There's a lot of good stuff. Oh, it's so much fun. So
have you played Warlords on Hypixel?
I have not, but I've heard people say it's like that. It's not like we're the only people that came up with the idea of having a talent-based PvP system in Minecraft, but I believe Voda came out before Warlords, but I don't think anybody stole any. I'm sure they didn't steal from us. We would have been an even smaller blip on the radar back then, but people have done some pretty cool stuff.
Claim copyright on them.
Yeah. Sure.
I guess going off that, do you plan to add any sort of talent system or custom stuff like that into the main Loka server at any point?
It's been suggested, and it's actually been suggested as a way to balance conquest fighting. It's hard to say that we will do that. We almost did. Almost what Conquest 3 was going to be was that, actually. It was going to be changing how PvP works on Loka, unique to any other server, by adding a sort of RPG-like meta game where you could be like a damage dealer, a tank, or a healer.
Mm-hmm.
It still appeals to us in a lot of ways because I like the idea that you can suck at PvP but still perform a vital role on a battlefield by being a healer or being a tank. And I like that idea. And I think that's something we could do maybe if we were a lot more popular and bigger. I think the issue is that people already have enough of a hard time learning how the server works when they join. To go then and say, oh, we have an entirely different PvP system is probably asking too much at this time. And I know there's a lot of people that actually don't like Loka simply because of our 33% damage thing that we've got also it's 1.12. So it's a polarizing thing, the PvP system on Minecraft. And
Yeah.
until we get to a size where we can, we can go, yeah, we're gonna make it like this, and we've got so many people that y'all are just gonna run with it. Until we do that without like preventing growth, I think we probably will stick with what works, what we've got now.
Interesting. So maybe something for the far future. Cool.
Definitely.
Last question from Time Centaur. This is, well, enjoy this question. What is your meaning of life?
It's 42.
Okay, awesome, perfect.
Yep.
How did you say that so straight?
I think other people will. Yeah, there's a reason why that's my answer.
Okay.
From a book.
All right. Well, I'll go with it.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's good.
Oh, I've heard of that. Never read it.
Mm-hmm.
Koi0001 asks, have you guys ever thought about redoing the player-controlled economy and adding auctions?
Yes, but then no. So
sorry.
Yes, we definitely agree that our economy is iffy at best. However, auctions isn't going to do anything, I don't think. But what it might be cool. I don't think we have enough rare stuff on the server yet that would be valid. I do believe after some PvE stuff comes out, like, and people start to be more rare items that some people have that other people's don't, that they have on the server. That might be a time in which these things can sort of start to happen. What I want to do with the market is actually reverse how it works. So rather than it just being like, oh, I have this much stuff I don't really care about, and I'm just going to sell it, I would sooner see it turn into a system of like work orders where it's I have put up this much money because I will pay 64 shards for every stack of diamond blocks. That's a terrible conversion rate. But yeah, the idea is that you basically say, I want this, and people go to the market and go, oh, this person is buying mushroom blocks. I will sell them mushroom blocks, and as soon as I put it up, I get their money instantly. And I think that would be a way more active way for the market to work than the way it works now.
Isn't that kind of like the job system already, though?
Yeah, but the job system was meant to be a way for players that were creative to kind of create their own quests on the server, and not as much a substitution for the market.
Okay.
Definitely could. I mean, it currently could be used that way, and I think it already is being used that way. But I think right now, if you look at the jobs that exist, first of all, there are only a handful in the town jobs board at spawn, which is the public jobs. Most everybody uses them for their towns, and I think that's cool as heck. Like, I like that people have like got all these giant job boards for go mine these things for town, and then you get town points. That's cool, but nobody really uses the public job system, so I think that they kind of need to be a little bit separate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. You mentioned the town points. As a town owner myself, I don't know the ins and outs of Loka as well as other people do, but I've noticed that the town currency doesn't seem to be available for much. I know you can make private zones where, you know, only if you have 1,000 or more of this town currency can you get in. Do you plan on adding anything with that town owners can mess with and give out stuff to people who have more prestige or anything?
Well, yeah, so prestige is kind of, it's in the eye of the owner to do what they want with it. I think it's meant to not do anything. It's so that it can be allowed to do everything. So what was missing for the longest time, but we recently did finally add, was that it used to be that people just looked at your prestige and said, oh, okay, you got to 1,000, so now I'm going to do this thing for you. Now you can say there are these jobs that you can't even get unless you have the certain amount of prestige. And then the final bit of the puzzle is that we will make it so that you can do a town job and have the reward be that it executes basically like a town command. So you could basically make a job that says when this is completed, this will automatically promote this player from level 1 to 2. And then if you want, you can gate that job so that they can't even accept it until they have like 500 prestige. So basically they got to do jobs till they have 500 prestige, at which point they can accept a new job that has become available that promotes them in the end. And so that kind of gives that sort of infinite, it's not infinite, but you know, it's limited to the town commands, but it kind of gives that prestige a purpose.
Okay.
And then maybe something about like if I could see towns wanting to make some sort of like a town specific market where you could use your prestige and spend it to buy stuff that the town it sells to itself. I could see something like that being pretty cool, especially for some of those mega towns out there.
Yeah.
Kind of like do jobs, and even if the jobs don't specifically reward you gear, they reward you prestige, but then you can spend your prestige on gear that the town has made for you. Like if they want to make silver hand armor, then you can spend money to buy it. That might be cool.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know the thing about automatically promoting. That's definitely a good use for it.
It's coming. It got sidelined for other issues, but it will come at some point.
Okay. Awesome. Steve5729 says, ask Skyman why he likes to ruin people's days with restart. Also ask him if he likes chickens or the sheeple more.
Oh boy. Well, I'm not going to ask that or answer that second question. In present company, I will say that chickens are great. However,
yes, they're wonderful.
It's my job to restart the server.
Yeah,
if I didn't restart the server, it would never change. So there. It's unfortunate that sometimes it has to be restarted when it does, but the restarts that everybody should always count on are the nightly run, and then most mornings before I go to work is when I do a lot of Loka stuff. So that sort of 9 a.m. Central Time server restart is going to be pretty common. Any ones outside of that time zone are usually obviously a bug, and I regret that they happen, but they will, and that's life of on a server that's custom. If it was just I downloaded factions and Townie and a quest mod, then maybe we wouldn't restart as much, but then we wouldn't be as unique. So
yeah,
I don't apologize for it. I understand it's frustrating sometimes, but when you realize that restarts means something got better or fixed, then I like to think of it as generally an acceptable loss.
Yeah, and I know you guys have been working on saving town battles and everything when they happen during restarts and stuff like that. So
yep,
not too much.
It's always generally in the right direction. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, but it eventually gets to be 3 steps or 2 steps back, and then 3 steps forward.
Yeah. That's good. QFU asks, which university did you study at?
I went to Purdue University in Indiana.
Really?
That's where I went to college.
I live in Indiana.
Ooh. I know your state well.
Oh, really?
I do.
You don't live in Indiana, do you?
No, I do not, but I do.
Darn it. That would be cool. That's just a joke question. I don't understand this one. I don't know if
airport one.
Yeah. Oh, are you looking at them as well?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I stay slightly ahead of the curve, so I don't completely make a fool of myself.
Yeah, I don't even understand the airport one. If other people will understand that, then
Bourne lives near me in Texas, so
okay.
He thought I would give him a ride to the airport, although I've never met the man and I never said I would.
Oh.
So it's just a long running meme.
Okay, all right.
So, see, he's a scammer. His name is Borno Scamders, and he scams people. That's basically his trade. And so I was pretty sure he was going to scam me if I tried to take him to the airport. So I just didn't do that. And I think he got where he needed to in the end. So that's all good.
All right. It all works.
Yeah.
Mindblaster007 says, ask Cryptite about his brother. Also ask him if Mindblaster007 can buy an owner share of Loka.
I have a brother. He started Loka. He has not worked on Loka in many years. That's really all there is to that.
Does he come online at all?
He rarely ever does, but he will for the sake of an RP event. And usually if he logs on, that usually means something story-wise is about to happen. So ooh. I think he likes it that way. Basically, I can, if I need him to sign on to something and we need to advance the story, he's happy to do that. But yeah, generally, he's got enough going on in his life that I took the reins over long ago. So I think he's cool with that.
Cool.
And we don't have owner shares of Loka. I don't even pay myself, so I don't know what that would even be if I gave you one. I think OPIX. Actually, yeah, OPIX are owner shares of Loka. There you go.
There we go.
There they have it. Works. They have a
value. Does your brother run a different server now, or is he just like add a Minecraft code, sort of?
He does not. No, he doesn't really do the Minecraft thing anymore.
Okay, gotcha.
He does his own programming things.
Cool.
Yeah.
Next question. What's your social security number?
0.
Okay, cool. You can all hack Cryptite now. Have fun.
Please.
Oh, that might be it. Nope.
Am I a Russian spy? I think was what he wanted to know, but I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah, I don't know. Could be. Jeez.
Maybe.
That'd be scary.
Are you
I
Russian?
don't speak Russian.
Oh,
It'd be terrible.
Okay.
No, I speak mostly just French, a little bit of Farsi.
You speak different languages?
Can sort of a little bit. That's about it. So no, I wouldn't say that I can go to France and be fluent, but I did take many years of French.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. How do you say welcome to
useful.
Loka in French?
Bienvenue à Loka.
Oh! That was great.
That's all I got. Those are the 3 words I know.
Those are the 3 words they taught you.
Yeah. Welcome
Loka
to Loka.
being
it was really weird that they taught me that before I ever made the server. But
yeah, that's crazy. Like they knew. Busco Nombre asks if the Beetroot states become world capital, how are the Valentine Guards at Spawn going to be renamed?
That's a really good question. Because that probably, the Beetroot Estates Guard is it's probably too long of a name. I can see just maybe making it the first. Most likely, we'll do something where we take over what happens if we need to. So they would probably be called Beetroot Guards.
Beetroot Guards.
Yeah, which would be pretty awesome. I think. I look forward to Beetroot World Capital. Cough, cough, cough. I mean, I'm neutral. Whatever. Nothing.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
I didn't.
And if the transporters in Star Trek... this is complicated. If the transporters
no, that's great.
in
I know the answer to this one. I thought about this one at length. Go ahead.
Okay. If the transporters in Star Trek existed and you used it, your particles would be disassembled and then reassembled. Do you die every time? Are you ever alive at 2 places at once? Are you ever completely dead?
All right. First question. Do you die every single time? The answer is yes, you must. Second question. Are you ever alive at 2 places at once? That depends on the technology. That depends on whether the particles exist in 2 places at once. Like if it takes them away and then there's a pause and then they start up all over again in the second place, then no. Then 3, are you ever completely dead? Yeah, I think your first copy dies. There is a new version of you. It is in every way, shape, and form you, but it's not the same you that you were when you first teleported. So if you're asking if I would ever take a teleporter, no, because then I would die. You guys would see the part that comes out as like me, and you wouldn't know any different. But the person that is me right now, speaking to you at this moment, I would cease to exist, and I don't like that very much. End of my answer. Yeah.
Are you a Star Trek fan? Because I understood none
I'm
of that.
a huge Star Trek fan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And
I saw
Star
one
Wars
movie in 8th grade and never seen any more Star Trek.
Opik shames you too. He used to be a Spock skin for the longest time. He may even still be, for all I know. I don't see him online all that much more.
All right. Nova asks 5 questions. We already answered the first one. Do you want me to ask you about your personal thoughts on Conquest 4?
I mean, we've looked at it briefly. Honestly, I haven't thought about it too much, but I think that I remember the responses that other people had. I'd have to go look at it again. There were some neat ideas in there, but I think most of it was a little too out of this world. He had some ideas for like turret things that people could place. We've got some similar ideas coming for the would-be future of Conquest, but it's a little. I like the ideas because I like that people can potentially spin off ideas from other ideas, but I don't think that we are currently implementing any of those at this point. But nothing is for certain.
Cool. And then we've got how come attacks are much harder than defending?
They are not as much as I think people would like to think. I do see us reevaluating, the whole thing that we fixed lately, which was that the module that you could put on an inhibitor when you attack, for all of last month and ever since it was written, it actually wasn't working like it was supposed to. It was supposed to be destroyed the minute the first lamp went down, but for all that time it was always there as long as you had an inhibitor. Now it goes away as soon as the first lamp gets exploded. I think there's room to see how that goes, be it 2 lamps or maybe it stays up the whole time. I don't know, but Attacking is not harder than defending. And in fact, if you're attacking and losing attacks, then I think that the reason for that is because you didn't bring enough people. You weren't prepared.
Yeah,
we do think
it's
it's not supposed to be 1-to-1. It is supposed to be a little harder to attack than defend, but the idea is that if you're attacking, you've chosen to do so. The defenders did not say, "Oh, please attack us at 7 p.m. tonight." They just said, "Okay, here's 8 hours you can attack us, and at any point in time, hopefully we can get a bunch of people on." So it's never going to be 1-to-1, but I don't think it's inherently one or the other. It's very much about who you bring and who's good.
Yeah,
and who does
that's
what
fair.
they're supposed to.
That's fair. 4 and 5, weirdest person, weirdest thing. We kind of already went over that. And then, can Miraculous... I always say this name wrong.
Miraculous. That's how I say it.
Miraculous. Can Miraculous into... What? Can
Miraculous into 70-man army and world cap? Nova, I've wanted you forever for you to bring a 70-man army. You just don't do it. I want to see it, man. I want to see another goon swarm full of people join one town, and then everyone on the world has to band against them. I want to see that. Prove to me and everybody else on the server that you can do it, and then you can get world cap. But then of course that's whether you win. I have no say in the matter.
I think that's actually all the questions we have on here.
Oh, well, alrighty.
I've got a couple personal questions if you still got some time, but we've been going for quite a while, so it's up to you.
No, go for it. I'm all ears.
Okay, cool. So first of all, we were talking a little bit before the interview, before I started recording, about the early times of the server, and Crypt mentioned that it used to be an anarchy server started by his brother. So I was wondering how did anarchy turn into this totally custom server idea?
That is a good question, and that is called I kept learning how to do more things in a Minecraft plugin, and basically just kept bending Loka to my will. There's no other way to put it. I basically kept seeing Loka as this one thing, and I kept seeing it seemingly evolve. I mean, where it was and where it is are very different, but where it was and where it was going, it's a pretty linear order of progression. There were always sort of kind of a concept of towns, and there was always kind of war because there was raiding. If those were the only two rules, then the fact that the server is a town-based server with a PvP system that's more formalized, then that's why Loka is what it is today. The idea was that we wanted to take the toxicity and sort of, I would call it smarminess of traditional Minecraft glitch-based raiding out of the system and make it a very much more in-your-face, this is how you fight. It's very structured. You win or you lose, and I think a lot of players like that because it's so formalized. In the past, we had a lot of people quit. A lot of really great people quit on the server because it was basically just a server. It was like any other, where you could get inside the towns, you could manipulate people to let you join, and then you could empty their vaults, and then they'd log in the next morning. And they weren't raided; they were literally betrayed from the inside out. The reason all of the rules that we have are like they are is because they just contribute to paranoia. Nobody recruits into their town because they're afraid this new person might steal everything. So we just kept adding stuff and restricting stuff so that everything was much more formalized. And then we realized that the best thing we could do is give the power to the players. And that's why when you /find somebody, it tells you so much about them. It tells you who their past names were, who their potential alts are. And then the admins can see all the towns that you used to be in. I mean, the idea is that if you're going to bring somebody in your town, one, you'd better have the tools to protect your town so that even if they're in your town, that doesn't mean they can get to your owner vault. And then two, you might know who they might claim to be so that you can make the best informed decision on your own as to whether you want this person in your town. And the reason, and as a result, people now bring in new players to their town, because there was a very long time on Loka where we were fighting tooth and nail just to let people recruit a player that joined the server, and it was so bad. And so we just thought, if you want your factions and you want your rating like that, and you want to be able to destroy a town or force people off of a server, there's 100,000 servers out there that you can do that on. But if you want a formalized system of like real war with maps and everything that just says you can look at a map and go, look how big that our territory is, stuff like that, then that's what we like. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's where you can fight and you can lose, but if you lose, you didn't just lose everything you had on the server and roll all of your progress back to zero. That was our idea.
Yeah,
And
that
that was
kind of
year
how
that
it
was
is on
from
factions.
2011 to now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like keep on death and battle zones meant that fights could be like not just three people fought three people and the three on one side died and that's the end of the fight. We like the idea that it's kind of like a miniature battleground.
So when it was anarchy, was it um more structured than other anarchy servers currently, or was it kind of you could do whatever you want, you could hack, you could say whatever in chat, you could not claim
Yeah,
land, stuff like
it
that?
was basically pure anarchy, and then at some point, maybe after a few months or so, he added the ability to sort of protect an area, and that was kind of how the first iteration of towns began. But this was like beta Minecraft, so there wasn't. I think there were both not really anti cheats, but there also maybe weren't all that many cheats or hacked clients. And I don't think there was like language rules or anything. It was basically pretty hands off. It was just I'm curious what these players will do on the server. I don't really care what they do. I'm not here to supervise.
Yeah. To be fair,
That is
in beta, that's kind of how most servers were anyway, because there weren't as many plugins and stuff. You could kind of do whatever on most servers.
yeah, exactly. He was definitely far more hands off than we are these days. But
Right.
there's a lot of churn on a server like Anarchy. People play Anarchy servers because they're fun for a hot minute, but then they bail. Like there's no like, oh, this is my Anarchy server that I play on all of the time only. Like people, I don't think there's a lot of people, although I might be wrong about this, that play 2B2T constantly, like as their job, like as their main server to play on. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
fun to screw around for a little while, but
Yeah,
we
they're
wanted
definitely hard to stay on.
we wanted players that were bought in, that were like, I'm in this to see if I can win, and if that takes a few months to do it, let's do it. I think that adds a lot of intrigue to the server.
Oh, for sure, helps the community as well. Uh, so related to your brother starting up the server and you eventually taking it over, when did that shift occur? Like, when did you step in, and how did you change the server immediately when you became the owner? And while you started changing it, were you kind of, I know whenever you change something now with Loka, you ask the community, we go over tons of debates and whatever on the forums. So did you said previously that you kind of just took charge and you kind of rushed ahead with it. Does that mean you didn't really talk to the community, or the community want more structure and change things, or did you kind of just take it and turn it into what it is now?
um I guess TLDR, I just kind of did whatever I wanted. So the second world was when I started. My player officially signed on, joined a town called Cathedral that was ran by one of the admins at the time. And then I made my own town with a few of my friends, like everybody else does. It was called Asgard. That is the town that Jedi, I think, first joined. And I think the first thing I did, because we already had the concept of towns, and they were powered by cookies. I'm not making this up.
They were powered by cookies.
Yeah. So we needed a unique item, kind of like what we've got power shards now. We needed a unique item that you could put in a generator that you couldn't get in the game. And cookies back then could not be actually obtained in any meaning. Like you couldn't make them. You had to spawn them in. So they were cookies. The cookies placed in specific columns would change how big or how little your protection was. That was pretty much it. My first sort of like, oh, this is neat, and I'm going to try to figure out how this works, was to add town chat. So that was the very first thing that I did. Basically, I just kept maturing the concept of the town system over time. That was mostly, I think most of the conversations were between me and my brother about just like doing stuff. But ultimately, he didn't really care all that much because he was always hands off. So it was never like he never intended for it to be like this very intense thing. Whereas I saw it completely differently and wanted to do all these cool new things and learn stuff. I think the community was consulted back then, but I think back then making decisions was a lot more straightforward. It was like, I'm not going to ask, do you guys want town chat? Because they're not going to be like, no. So it was kind of making things obvious, adding things that were obvious, and then making changes that nobody really had a problem with like a maturing town system. When people started to get fussy was when we started to do things like adding a rule that said no town betrayal, no insiders, stuff like that. That's when people kind of started to quit, or some people started to stay, and it was just no one change was, I would say, hugely polarizing. It wasn't until the days of Conquest 2 where we started making decisions like, this is a change to how Conquest 2 fights are going to work, and people got much more upset. I mean, most every change we've made was to make things better or life easier or to fix a system. And it's not only more recently where we're doing things that legitimately are going to be a detriment to some players and a boon to others, because, you know, it makes somebody's life easier or somebody's job easier. Somebody's more likely to win, somebody's more likely to lose. That's the kind of stuff that didn't really exist back then, because it's just like, yeah, here's town chat. Okay, cool, that's awesome. Nobody complained about town chat.
Yeah, I bet not.
It was a far simpler time, I guess, is the way I'd put it.
When about was that in terms of Minecraft versions?
2012. I think I first started playing Minecraft when rain and weather started to show up.
Whew.
As for when I started doing stuff, it was probably spring of 2012, I would say.
Okay, so it's been a long time.
It's been a hot minute, for sure.
I'm basically out of questions, but I'm curious to know more about you in real life. Like, what kind of stuff do you enjoy? What's your job about? You said game design or something. What kind of stuff do you like doing?
I like long walks on the beach. And,
do you live by beach?
I don't.
No.
But I'd go to the beach once a year with my family.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I work for a game development studio. We make mobile games. Dungeon Boss on the iOS or App Store is one of the games.
You're part of Dungeon Boss? I used to play that all the time.
Okay, sweet.
Oh my god.
All right, yeah, that's one of the games that I've made. I did the UI for that.
Are you serious? That's crazy.
Yeah. But I also play I play some games. I honestly spend a lot of time on Loka, but I never really play Minecraft, I think, because ironically, and this may, probably this shouldn't be a surprise to people, but because I think I've said it before, Minecraft doesn't interest me really. Like the game, it doesn't. But doing what I can with it and watching other people participate in it is what I enjoy so much. Like, I toil and fix bugs and have fun in the morning fixing stuff and adding stuff. But when I observe, when I listen in onto the VCs for during fights of big fights, there's 30 people on one side, 30 on the other, and I used to be able to duck between the two channels. Listening to everybody get all excited about it, strategize, talk about what they're going to do. That stuff is really what I enjoy. That's the payoff for me. Watching you guys have fun with the stuff that I made is enough for me. But then, of course, I'm not crazy. I couldn't work all day long. So when I come home, generally, I play Rocket League or League of Legends. Magpie's my general 2v2 Rocket League buddy. So I do play games and stuff like that.
Okay. Do you have a wife, fiance, kids?
I have a girlfriend.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh. How long have you been dating?
A little bit. I won't go too much detail. I don't want people thinking that I'm about to be on the market or anything like that.
I'm about to be on the market.
I don't want Magpie to get excited.
When's the wedding? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow.
He's the bride.
He's the bride. Oh, okay. Is your girlfriend the best man or something?
It's really complicated. So, but anyway, yeah. No, okay. I'm a normal guy, just like anybody else. I'm just way too old for Minecraft, I think. I always thought that the population that we were kind of going towards more for, demographically speaking, was an older audience. We were thinking that late teens or mid 20s were the guys that would play our server, because it's a lot like EVE Online, where it's a lot of kids don't want to join a server and then think, oh my gosh, I have to think, wait, plan, yada 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 for 3 months before I can potentially win. That's not the kind of immediate gratification that Minecraft is known for. There's a reason Hypixel the minigame servers are hugely popular.
Mm-hmm.
That's because that's just the demographic for Minecraft is mostly kids, not like 20-somethings and 30-somethings. So, but there's a lot of us out there. It's just not the majority. So we always knew that Loka wasn't going to be the next Hypixel. That's just absurd. Also, I'd kill myself. But then at least I'd have a job that was only that. That was a lot of words in one sentence. But yeah, we think we can still be pretty popular, but I wouldn't say that we're aiming to be one of the top servers of Minecraft. That would be a lot of stress.
No, that would destroy the gameplay and everything as well.
Yeah, I don't know how Loka would scale. I think if we ever got to be absolutely massive, I think there would be an EU Loka and a US Loka and like an Asia Loka. I think that's the only way that could possibly work, because we could add another continent if we got big, and that's kind of the idea. People are constantly asking, when's the 4th continent coming out? And the answer is there just isn't a reason for one right now.
Mm-hmm.
Either Mojang comes out with an update where it's got a whole new bunch of biomes like cherry trees and just like all these kinds of new plant blocks or something like that. That's when making a 4th continent makes sense. Otherwise, we have to be big enough where a 4th continent makes sense. And right now it just doesn't. So, but if we got really, really big, maybe we would do it. But it is not currently worth doing. But that would only be fun for so long. I think at some point, if we had so many players, then yeah, we could actually look to have different geographic regions of the same version of Loka. But that is a bridge we will cross if the time comes.
All right.
So.
Well, that's all my questions. Is there anything else you wanted to say or ask yourself a question or?
Ask myself a question. No, I don't have any.
That wasn't phrased
straight.
Trey.
Myself a question. Okay, I'm joking. No, I mean, I had a great time, and I'm glad to have done this, and I'm glad you have put it together. And Mag and I have actually had a lot of fun watching your videos. In fact, we laughed long and hard about when you went raiding and got stuck in Nightshade.
Oh my gosh, I was so mad.
That was a great video. So we're looking forward to seeing some new content, and I'm happy that you're on the server and you brought some great folks to the server, and look forward to doing this in the future with you or with other future YouTubers maybe in the future. But I appreciate you taking the time to organize this.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you accepting this call. I did not expect you to be so nice. You're you're awesome. Well, okay, that sounded bad.
Tactically nice. You're nice. Other people aren't nice, and then I'm not nice to them. No, I'm just kidding. It's never advantageous to be mean. There just isn't anything for it.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
You just seem like a generally great person. Are you good at PvP?
Words. So on Minecraft, I used to be, but that was before I even knew that pot PvP was a concept. So I am. This is Arena Season 7 or 8 that we're on right now. Well, Arena Seasons 1 and 2, I won those actually, but that was bare bones pot. There was bare bones PvP. There was 2 splash healing potions, and it was like 2 damage and 2 splash healing potions. That was it. And then like a wooden sword, arrows, leather armor. That was it. Now was pretty good at that. And then people joined the server who knew what pot PvP was, and completely changed the landscape of what was Conquest back then, which was a very different system, and probably worth a discussion in a completely separate discussion in and of its own. The history of Conquest. That would be that
would be interesting.
That's for historians.
Historians.
But no, yeah. I'm okay at games. I would say. I would like to think that I'm good, but I think I'm too old to be great. Yeah. I've aged out. My hands and fingers don't work like they used to.
You're not that
all
old.
Things take practice.
That's
all
true.
Things in time, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, that's it from me. So unless you've got anything else, we can wrap up.
All right. No. Well, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks everybody for sitting through it all. I think this might be a long one. I don't know how much you're going to edit out, but I like to think that everything I said was amazing.
Yeah, I'm thinking about just uploading the whole clip actually.
That works for me.
There's not much to cut out. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Cryptite for accepting this and being up for chatting for like 2 hours, and hope you learned a little bit about Loka. If you want us to do this again in the future with different questions, or like Cryptite says, talking about Conquest history or anything like that, just let me know in the comments of this video or on the Loka forums. Make sure to join the Loka Discord. I will link that in the description, and have a great day. So thanks to Cryptite for joining me, and see ya.